Oh, red flags. Recruiter red flags, company red flags, and how to address them. When you begin working with a recruitment agency, you will immediately be able to make an assessment of their professionalism based on their website, their LinkedIn presence, their knowledge of the client, their knowledge of the role, their tone of voice, their use of language with you, and how they initially reached out to you, maybe through a phone call, a text message, a DM. All of these are signs and active pieces of information for you to consider when you are working with a recruiter. And if any of these signs points in a direction that gives you a bad gut feeling, you need to address them immediately, because this recruiter has the opportunity to help you or to break your chances of getting this job. You might see this in the process with the recruiter before you even get to the interview. Before I had a recruitment agency, I was a candidate. I dealt with almost every single recruitment agency that you can possibly think of. Generalist, niche agencies, global agencies with big names. And I can tell you right now that there isn't one agency that I walked away from where I thought, man, they are doing an amazing job. I feel so well prepared. There was one that came close to it, and they were an executive search agency in downtown Toronto. The reason why they came close to it is because they knew the client so well. They provided me with all of the information, all of the context, all of the guides, all of the links, all of the articles that I would possibly need to be successful. And they were so consistent with their communication. The recruiter that I was dealing with had worked in the industry before, so he knew some of the challenges and some of the trends. But that's few and far between nowadays that recruiters are like that. Nowadays, recruitment agencies almost paying next to nothing, whether it's 100% commission or it's a draw against commission plan, they're hiring people that have never done recruiting before. They're teaching them how to recruit online using LinkedIn Learning, or even having someone else on the team train them. And that person normally was equally as horrible. And they are giving you the bare basics of information about the job. They're not prepared. They don't know what the client is going to ask. They don't coach you on how to do your research prior to going into the interview. And it is a horrible experience for everyone, including the company. Honestly, I don't even know why some of these companies exist. But there are some red flags that you should be watching out for and listening for. I know that you're looking for work. I know it can be challenging to push back, but if you don't want to be in a disastrous situation, I highly recommend you take a look at these red flags. Number one, they didn't share a prep doc. Number two, they aren't giving you specific communication about the client, meaning they don't know about the comp or the job specifics. Number three, they don't have a website. Number four, they can't even give you examples of other placements or companies that they've worked with. These are my top red flags, but here are my reasons that you would want to dump a recruiter. I will share them in the content. I'm telling you, sometimes working with recruiters can be more effort and more work than it's worth. Also, as a side note, there is a company that's called ACS Access. They have a list of recruitment companies who they've vetted that they believe that you should be working with. Now, there's company hiring manager red flags too. Things like not showing up to the interview and ghosting you, being unprofessional, swearing, disorganized, arguing, a hiring manager who frequently is interrupting you or seems disinterested during the interview, may not value your time or your input. A hiring manager who lacks clarity. So they can't clearly articulate the role, the expectations, the company culture, and they may not even have a clear vision or an understanding of what they need. They may have unrealistic expectations. A hiring manager who expects unrealistic qualifications or experiences for the role is likely not going to have a practical understanding of the job market. The hiring manager could have a negative attitude. They might display a consistently negative attitude or hostile attitude, which can create a challenging work environment for you. And they could have a complete disregard for diversity and inclusion. A hiring manager who demonstrates bias, prejudice, or disregard for DEI practices may not contribute to a healthy workplace culture. Also, keep in mind it's a red flag if there's a resistance to questions. If the hiring manager avoids answering your questions, or they seem uncomfortable with inquiries that you make about the company or the role, it may suggest a lack of transparency. In fact, it does suggest that. I suggest you run.